What's up, baseball world? Welcome along to another edition of Jay's Talk with Jay. We are joined today by Rob and Luis from Blue Jay Center, and we are also joined by David, who is a super fan by all accounts. He's also a friend of Rob's. I'm quite surprised because I didn't think Rob had any friends. Guys, how you all doing?
Fine.
I'm doing great.
I'm doing great.
Jay, I heard that Sheldon, he's currently late right now. He's at the local pub, and they're having a competition of who their favorite Jays host from England is, and you're in the final, so that's why you can make it. I have inside info.
You've been reading my Instagram stories.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's possible.
I'll put it out there.
It's possible. Sheldon was meant to be with us, but he's gone missing again. It's not the first time he's done it. The last time he fell asleep. So we'll see. Maybe he'll turn up, maybe he won't, but we'll go. Guys, when we spoke, Luis, I think when we spoke last, the Jays weren't doing very good. And Rob, last week, we just off the bit of a thrashing from the Yankees. Things have changed slightly in the last few days.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, the last 4 games, you played against some very inferior competition, although it looked like we were going to lose that series with the Orioles, down 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th. It seemed as though, at least you were hoping that ferocious rally in that second game in that Baltimore series would kind of set the tone for maybe a season-changing inning. And right now, we're trending that way. It's 3 wins in a row since that moment, and then you have a 4-game series against Baltimore. They're in prime position to go on a real run right now, especially with the trade deadline looming in a few weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Like Rob said, I think they got a little lucky with that Bo Bichette hit on Saturday with the 2 strikes in the 9th. And, their play last night wasn't the greatest either. Romano threw it in the dirt. Biggio missed first base. But again, win's a win, and that's all you can ask for. So, and again, they have Baltimore coming up, and hopefully they can take 3 out of 4 from them. But, just keep it up. And, and then Seattle's next, and then some other weak teams. So I hope we just continue to keep it up and play baseball.
Yes, when we last talked about the Jays, they were just about to start a new series against the Red Sox, as you remember, Jay. And it's amazing for me to see the Red Sox so top above us in the division. And remember that we just were like a few plays away to sweep a 4-game series, but also at the end it went on to be a split series, right? A 2-game series, two wins for each team. So it's this J season has been kind of crazy, but at the end, the only thing that I'm so happy about is that we have a very talented team in Toronto, and this team is so talented that it's almost impossible to this team to fall out in the standings. So they will find a way, and I'm pretty sure that they will compete for at least for a wild card spot. They will be in that tied race until the end of the season.
I think whenever you win, sorry, Jay, I just wanted to say, but when you win 4 games in a row against teams that you probably should beat, there's kind of no win-win. You know what I mean? You're supposed to beat these teams, and if you don't, it's kind of the end of the world. But I just wanted to ask you guys, throw it out to anyone, what's kind of been the most impressive thing about this 4-game series, 4-game win streak? Because, like I said, you're playing weaker opponents. There's something there. So what did you guys find most impressive about this little upswing that we're going through lately?
I'll tell you what, I'll start off, and I'll tell you why. Because something that was quite interesting wasn't all about home runs, wasn't all about power. And I think that if we can start to manufacture runs when we're not hitting the ball 400, 500 feet, then I think we've got a good chance of beating anyone, because there's been an over-reliance on the home run for a while now. So I think that manufacturing runs, not relying on the long ball, for me is a big plus.
For sure. And I just about thinking of the question that Rob said just a few seconds ago, I will say pitching for me has been the pleasant surprise in these last 4 games. With the starting pitching just continue to put very good starts every day. And also I just have this feeling that our bullpen right now, it's like they just put away these tough losses, these tough games that last almost 2 weeks, and this looks like right now like this is in the past for them, and they are trying to start a new streak. And for me, that's be the key, because we, as in the last 4 games, I think the last 3, our offense has been really slow. They just have some few runs for the pitching, but I will say that pitching has been the real difference in the last 4 games, and this is important because this was our weak point in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I agree with Luis. I thought the bullpen was really good the last few days, especially Chatwood. He's been turning it around lately. And also Romano, he's been nails all season long. So just having him back there in the bullpen has been great. And also, yeah, the offense hasn't been great, in Miami. They only scored like 3-1, 2-1. What was the score in those games? But
2-1, 3-1, yeah.
Yeah, so timely hitting was good. In the ninth inning, Gurriel got that double. Teoscar got that double. And then, the defense wasn't great, but timely pitching and good hitting and, somewhat solid defense. And, that's going to win you some more games than not. So that's what I think.
I'm going to also give them a little bit of a pass, too, because as bad of a team as Miami is, and trust me, they're not a good team. They're a team that last year they kind of took full advantage of the level of excellence being lowered because of the COVID season and the expanded playoffs. But I think the fact that they were able to go up against some good pitching, because don't forget, Miami, look at their pitching. It's been pretty much dynamite all season long. It's more so the offense that's really cratered their opportunity to really win this season.
Both games were a pitching duel, really, weren't
exactly.
they? Let's face it.
Yeah. And it's not to say that, maybe the Jays can't hit, but I thought Alcantara looked really good on, was it the Tuesday game? He threw 98 with that killer changeup. And then obviously Trevor Rogers, kind of one of the few bright spots on that team. They were both very good. And the fact that you were able to win those games, especially the game yesterday, because after that first inning, they really didn't get a whole lot going offensively. So to come out of the gate strong, win, and then pretty much salt it away with your pitching, I think I'm going to give them a little bit more of a pass because they didn't score a lot last couple of games. But now in this 4-game series, when you're facing the Orioles, who, by all accounts are a marginal big league pitching staff, I think you got to bring the bats out. This is a type of series where you're going to win by hitting a lot of home runs, a lot of base hits, and that's what I'm looking for in this weekend against Baltimore.
Quick question. What the hell was up with the first base umpire yesterday?
Oh, my God.
Like seriously, I wouldn't mind if they're close calls, but the ones that he got wrong that were overturned, there was 3, wasn't it? 3 that I can remember. They weren't even close.
And also, and the foul ball too. That shouldn't have been a foul ball.
Yeah.
Like this guy gets paid. Like I don't want to talk too much about the umpires because it always annoys me, but they have to do something sooner rather than later because it is becoming a bit of a joke now.
I think too, it's like when you remember Vic Carapazza when he just essentially screwed the Jays over time after time. It was more so I think him like had a personal vendetta with the Jays. I think whoever Joe Budd playing first base umpire yesterday, I just think he was a terrible umpire. Period. Like he just got calls wrong left and right for both teams. I don't really make much of it. I just think it's just had a rough night umpiring.
In any other, if I was at work or you were in your job and you made that many mistakes in one day, you'd get sacked. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to go too much further on it, but you can't get away with it. It's in front of millions of people watching on TV. It's in front of 12 fans in the stadium. Like you just can't, you can't do that. Like for me, it's a no-go. 2 things. George Springer is back. Finally. I wasn't expecting miracles. I think I said to Sheldon that in his first game back, he'll go 0 for 4.
Really?
I also said that Marcus Simeon would go 0 for 4 as well. Something said, because all the debate has been on whether Springer should lead off or whether Marcus should lead off. I just thought it'd be funny because neither of them would get a hit. And they've both been pretty rubbish for 2 games. But now that Springer's back, like I want to concentrate on the pluses rather than the minuses. Let's forget that we only scored 2 runs when he scored 3 runs. I think that's irrelevant. when you look at that lineup, even with Springer hitting fifth now, is that not the lineup we've been crying out for all season?
Yeah, I would think that we are almost there. This is this lineup look. It's like the most powerful lineup that we can expect right now with our roster, and yeah, and I think at this moment the Jays win the most with George Springer in the mental part of the game. Right now, George, as we all know,
He's a winner.
George has not produced in any way in the offensive part of the game, and even in the defense part, he has been like he hasn't been required a lot. But in the mental part of the game, that was one of the areas where we were just struggling as bad as we can. That's where George makes the most impact right now for this team, and to have him in the lineup, to have him in the field, just makes life easier for all the young guys just to go out and play. So that's if you think about that, that's great, because just imagine when George start putting the offense numbers that we all know that he can put in there, in just add that offense to our lineup, and this will be crazy. So for me, it's great to have him back, and I'm not worried about his slow start. I think that will be gone in a few days, maybe weeks, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's going to take him a while to come back. He was out like 2 months, and then he was out before that, came back for 2 games, and then he's been out 2 months again. So I think it's going to take him a while to get back, but and deal for 4, it's kind of expected. Just like I said, he's been out for so long. But ideally, I want to see him hit higher in the lineup, maybe hit him 2 and Bo fifth. I don't know. That's just me. I think he's a higher on base guy, and Bo's he gets decent on base, but I think you go Semien, Springer, Vladdy, Teoscar, and then Bo. But that's just me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think ideally he's probably hitting higher up in the order, simply just because of the fact that you mentioned, Dave, that he can get on, and he's one of the few guys in this lineup where I think, well, I mean, they have a ton of mashers. There's no doubt about that. We know that, but I think a lot of the guys, even the Teoscar Hernandez, the Bo Bichette, a lot of the guys are prone to chase, and I think you want your guys who can have an eye at the plate to get on early in the game, especially setting the table up for the Vladdies of the world and Teoscar right behind him. I think that's your ideal lineup. But I do agree that right now, coming off the injury, hitting the ground running, you do want him hitting kind of in the middle of the order just until he gets his groove going, because he will. It's right now the whole problem with Springer was, can he actually come into the lineup and produce? Because we all know that the track record's there. He's been a really good big league hitter for more than half a decade at this point. So you're not really concerned about him not figuring it out. You're more so concerned about him actually playing. And right now that he's playing, he's out there. That's all you could really ask for. And the fact that he's run hard after all these ground balls, also really encouraging to see. I do feel like when Charlie said after his post game, was it on Sunday, that ideally he'd like to have Springer hitting fifth or sixth in the lineup, that kind of set the table, because I think it would be a really bad look for Springer to, after your manager pretty much publicly exposes what strategy he'd like in terms of the lineup, to go completely a 180 and say, no, I'm hitting leadoff. You paid me 150 million, take it or leave it. So I think he was more so forced into that spot rather than accepting it. I think he does want to hit leadoff. That's where he's hit his whole career. So I would expect that sooner rather than later, he'd be back in that leadoff spot, and then we'll move Semien down a spot and maybe move Bichette lower in the order.
I don't think any of them things will happen. I'll be honest. I
want to bet on it?
You're going to come here and give me the money in person?
E-transfer is always available.
Here's my take. I think that credit has to be given to Charlie for this, because it would have been very easy to put Springer at leadoff, and if it goes wrong, it's on Springer. It's not on Charlie. It'd be like everyone wanted him to hit leadoff. Everyone was saying we spent 150 million on him. So I think that Charlie actually takes the pressure off himself, and he takes the pressure off George as well by putting him fifth. Like, you've got 4 guys up there already that have the ability to get on base or hit it out of the park to score before he even comes in. And there's not a lot of teams that have got that luxury at the moment. But I think that George will lead off. I think it will be Simeon that ends up hitting lower. I don't think they break up the whole Bo, Vladdy, Teoscar. I think that they all hit. I think when one of them plays well, they kind of all seem to feed off each other, and I think that stays. And again, because we're not in there, it's difficult for us to say. But judging by what we've seen on camera and the way that everyone's speaking, I think Springer's a team player. I think he's connected well with the team already, bearing in mind he hasn't played much. And I think he's probably had conversations with the guys and he's probably thought, you know what? Why upset the apple cart at the moment? Especially at things, it would have been different if we were on the back of losing a series to the Yankees and we were talking about these losses. I think it may have been different if it had come then, but because it's come now and we'd got a bit of a winning streak going, we'd hit a lot of home runs, we'd scored some decent scores. I think it kind of all made sense for him to just not play the game, but actually just go, you know what? We're winning now. Let's see how I do. You can back me ninth. Let's see how I do, and then we'll talk about this in a week, 2 weeks. So I think that's where it is with the Springer thing. I think Simeon's the one that gets moved down because I think he's the more versatile one that it won't affect too much. Because when he was moved down originally, he actually started hitting.
That's valid. Yeah, he has had experience hitting in the lower in the order, but you're saying that you're more of the mindset that you'd rather have, I guess, continuity in terms of Bichette, Vladdy, Teoscar hitting 2, 3, 4 than the strategic element, because strategically you want your best hitters hitting higher in the order.
If you bring up that folder, I swear to God, I'm ending this now. Here's my take. It's not about continuity or anything. I would say that this is the first time we've won 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
We're at the end of June. So all I would say is it's like let's see what happens. We could lose tonight. I'll be very annoyed if we do.
Yeah.
Especially after seeing who's pitching against us. So I would be in the mind frame of let's see what happens, and let's assess it after the Baltimore series. Springer's bound to get a hit at some point over the next 4 days. Let's see how he does. Look, I don't care if he goes until the end of next week and doesn't get a hit at all. I'm with Luis. I think the fact that he's in that team and he's making a contribution somehow. He hasn't had a hit, but he got an RBI yesterday. That RBI makes a big difference when it's a 1-0 game, becomes a 2-0 game. And I think that they're the things that we're looking at. And Luis hit on the head. Mentally, for some of these kids, this guy is a winner. He knows how to win games. I think that could be the difference between us making the wild card and not. I'll be honest. I think it's a bigger factor than a lot of people have put in on at the moment.
Yeah, I think the macro view is that this lineup should be good. Ideally, it should be good when they're fully healthy. And I don't think it really. I think it does matter. I think lineup construction is important, but when you have so many good hitters, you can only blame the order so many times. Whatever order they have, whether it's Springer hitting 5th, whether it's Simeon, Bo moving up or down the lineup, they should hit. That's kind of the main point that we're trying to stress across here. So yeah, I'm fine with letting it play out for sure.
Yeah, and I will also add that it will depend on how they just continue to perform on the coming weeks, because you can't forget that Marcus Simeon in May had his best month of his career. So it was a crazy month for him. So why would you like to move Marcus Simeon from the leadoff spot if he's coming from his best month of his career? So let him play there. And also, I agree with that part, because I think that 2, 3, and 4, for me, they are very clear. I will not move anything there unless some of these guys gets hurt and has to be forced into the injury.
Told you. See, Luis. If Luis is saying it, it's got to be true.
And George, I think George will find his groove in the 5th spot, and then on you can adjust if it's necessary to do it. Maybe George can spend the rest of the season in the fifth spot, and he can find a good spot in there for our lineup. So that will depend on how the guys just continue to perform, and that will be just I think CC to move as they are going on through the season. But 2, 3, and 4 for me are almost untouchable.
No, I was just gonna say, like, they have like bigger issues than, you know, Springer hitting fifth or second or leadoff. So I think right now they should just put him in fifth, you know, start getting him hitting a bit, and then, like Luis said, just evaluate the situation as it progresses along.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Well, because let's face it, he's been out for so long. It might take him 4 weeks to get going, right? I don't think this is a conversation. I think this is a conversation for way after the All-Star break to see where we are, what's going on. I think then we'll know more. I think that's exactly it. You said we have bigger issues. I'm going to say the bullpen, and the only reason I'm going to say the bullpen, something that concerned me 2 days, yesterday, day before, 3 pitchers, same 3 pitchers. If we are in a 2 or 3 run game coming into the 7th tonight, what happens?
An Anthony Castro, a Patrick Murphy. Does that appetize anyone? No, didn't think so, right?
And I think that's the problem. I was watching the highlights just before we came on, just so that I could kind of make sure I knew what I was talking about. And I think the issue is going to be if that happens tonight, because he's not going to let Chatwood pitch again. He's not going to let Mazes pitch again, and he's certainly not going to let Romano pitch again. Like, I'm surprised Romano did 2 days on back to back, so because that hasn't really happened much. So, what's the answer? Before you say we have to get something before the trade deadline, what's the answer internally? Because it looks like, I thought that they were going to pull the trigger early. Doesn't look like that. So it means they're going to leave it to the last minute. So what happens for the next 2 weeks?
Eventually, these guys, the other guys not mentioned right now in the bullpen, eventually they will need to pitch, and they will need to be there, and they will need to prove the team and the manager that they can do also the job. I think that for me, Castro and Murphy are 2 guys that can be good for the 7th inning. If you have a 2 or 3 or maybe a one run lead, they can go and do the job. I think right now the bullpen does not have that pressure that they had a few days ago, and these guys will need to step up, and as they did it at the beginning of the season, and that's it. This is how baseball works. As you said, you cannot depend on just 3 guys and for do the job, and the other guys like keep them sitting just watching the game.
Yeah, it's pretty much how it is. You just got to piece it together. You know, the Jacob Barnes. Hopefully, you catch lightning in a bottle with him. That's obviously the hope. Then you have
another project.
Well, that's kind of what they're stuck with at this point. I think today is really the tough day, because let's face it, Anthony Kay on a good day, he's probably giving you 4 2/3. You know, that's kind of his ceiling, though. It's been lately so far in his big league career. So, yeah, they're gonna need to piece this bullpen together, and that's why you got to score a lot of runs. Not just 2 runs in the first inning and then, you know, kind of cruise control the rest of the game. Last time they faced, what's his name? Kramer? I can't even remember his first name. That's just how far off the map he is. But sorry,
Austin or Devin, something like that.
I don't even know. Anyway, they better score. They better score a ton of runs off him, because, like you said, this bullpen, when it's at pretty much at full strength, this version of full strength, not all that reliable, especially with pretty much your 3 best relievers arguably that are remaining gone. It's going to be tough to envision how exactly they're going to piece this together. But right now, if you kind of look at it, I'm Patrick Murphy, Castro, and Barnes. Those are the 3 guys that. And
that's assuming Kay can get. That's assuming Kay can get past the 3rd or 4th inning, right?
Right, exactly. And I know that everyone says it's Baltimore. Well, you know, Baltimore, they're
beat us 7-1. They beat us 7-1.
There's still a big league team. I mean, Jacob Barnes. I mean, he's not far off from their caliber of hitter, as he is a caliber of pitcher. So I don't know, man. It's kind of worrying me right now. If it's in a late game tonight, who are we going with?
I agree. I think tonight, it's kind of magnified because Anthony Kay is on the mound. He only, like Rob P said, he only goes 4 2/3. So that means the bullpen's going to have to pitch a lot of innings tonight.
And what are you doing? Are you bringing Trent Thornton in? Really?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Trent Thornton or Taylor Saucedo. Maybe you can give him another chance, and Barnes too. Just maybe catch lightning in the bottle with him, because these are the guys you have, and someone has to pitch. So I guess you just got to roll the dice with these guys and see how it goes.
David, I'm going to give you the floor for a minute because obviously it's the first time you've come on. Just tell us, what's your fascination with the Jays? Obviously, I'm guessing you're from Toronto, so it kind of makes sense. But what's the thing that makes you a Blue Jays fan?
Well, I became a fan in like 2010, and that's when Jose Bautista hit 54 home runs, and then they got Edwin Encarnacion, and then I was watching, and then they made that Dickey trade, and everybody was kind of hyped for no reason. And then 2015, I watched them all throughout those years. I watched as many games as I could. And then they got Tulowitzki and David Price. And then that kind of hyped me up. And then they went on that 40-19 run or whatever it was. And then they made it all the way to the ALCS. And just from there, I just fell in love with them. And, 2016 was a great year as well. And even 2017, 2018, 2019, I still stuck with them. I still watched almost every game. And yeah, I just love baseball. I don't know, it's my favorite sport. So
just a quick question: Do you follow the stuff that the Blue Jay Center boys do on Instagram? Do you kind of see the posts and the stories and things like Fan Take Friday? So you watch the stuff. So I've got a question for you: who is your favorite contributor on Blue Jay Center?
Oh, is this
You can choose anyone you want. Everyone that comes on the show gets asked the question. If you haven't heard of Blue Jay Center, you don't get invited back. It's pretty simple.
No, I've heard of it. I've been following Blue Jay Center since the first day it was.
So it should be an easy answer. It should be an easy answer for you. You can take the time. We've got about 4 minutes left, so it's all good.
No, you're all good guys. Luis is a good guy. Rob is a good guy. Steve is a good guy. I can't remember any.
It's great, isn't it, watching people sweat when you ask that question? Because first of all, you don't have to answer. Nobody has answered. Luis nearly answered, but I stopped him. But yeah, I just love watching people's faces. They get put on the spot, and you see that question, and it's like, oh shit, I have to answer this, and I'm going to offend somebody regardless of what I say. But yeah, obviously, I know that Rob knows you. You know Rob, and that's how you've ended up here. But it's always good to get somebody else's take on the Jays stuff, because I listen to these guys all the time, and I love their input. I don't always agree with it, but I understand where they're coming from. Apart from Rob and his folder, I can't get my head around that. It's a game played by human beings. Go out there and play. Sometimes feeling overdoes statistics and analytics.
Jay, stats are empirical reality, my friend. Empirical reality.
The only stats that I'm interested at the moment are the ones that have the name Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next to him.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Especially you open his Fangraphs chart. It's every morning you got to look at that and just we got our guy. That's our guy. He's not going anywhere.
You were talking last night. You were talking with James and I can't remember who else was on. Mo, James and Mo. Well, Mo was sitting there watching a game on the TV while you and James were talking. But you were talking you were talking about Vladdy and getting him signed up. Like, realistically, will that happen this year? Like, do we think that will happen this year?
I mean, I hope so. But right now, it's looking like if I'm his agent, like I said on the live yesterday, I'm walking into that office, in Shapiro and Atkins' office, and I'm not leaving until I get a deal equivalent or more to what Tatis got. Because right now, the season that he's having, it's looking like a real miss by the front office that they haven't extended him and bet on him earlier. Because as it looks right now, he's on the trajectory to be the greatest hitter in the history of this franchise, and it's not even particularly close if this season is any indication. So It's looking like if they're gonna have him retained, which they absolutely should. Like there's no answer to this team moving forward if they don't have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on term. And it's looking like if it's gonna happen, it's going to be on more of a Tatis Acuna, a Tatis contract than an Acuna Albies contract, which it's unfortunate because now you have a lot less flexibility to move forward. And it's unfortunate for the team, but good for Vladdy. He absolutely deserves it with the season that he's having. And I've always been on the Vladdy train, man. I thought that this guy is legit from the moment he came up, and I thought you got to lock him up as soon as possible. And now it looks like they may have oversold the waiting game a bit.
Is his value literally going up every week they leave it by not talking? Are they talking another million every week? And it's literally going up like a counter.
Brother, it seems that his value at this point, it's hard for it to go up any further. I mean, he's got an 1,100 OPS and we're 300 plate appearances. It's ridiculous. Like, it's just the season that he's having. It's unquantifiable how great he's been. So it's hard to imagine his value going any higher than it already is.
So David's disappeared. So we're going to continue talking Vladdy because Luis has some very, very interesting, and he's going to give us stats that none of us know. Luis, take it away.
Oh man, well, it's just tough to add. I don't know with this. What I was telling you is that always in sports, the most spectacular thing about sports is to see the offense. In every sport, the offense always sells tickets, sells jerseys, and that's the most crazy thing for fans to look at the offense part of the game. And this guy just provides offense in a crazy fashion, in a crazy way. The way he hits the ball, it's just spectacular to see him play. And seems so far that he will end this season putting numbers that maybe we have never seen in the history of baseball. So it's just crazy, I believe that all the baseball world, it's just about waiting to see if this guy can keep this trend or even putting better numbers until the end of the season. And I will also add that there maybe can be something that can stop Vladdy a little bit, and I will say it will be the precautionary moves that other managers do against him, right? Because right now I've seen a few games where I believe that
they're pitching well away from him, aren't they already?
I've seen, like, at least I remember 3 or 4 games when the other team had the chance to walk him or just throw around the sun to him, and they decided to pitch him, and he finally ended up punishing the other team. So right now, I will think that the league will understand that at some point you should not pitch to this guy right now. So it will be funny and it will be interesting to see how the other teams manage this part, because for sure at the end, on the final weeks of the season, and also considering the Jays can go into the postseason, it will be interesting to see how the other teams manage and how they decide to pitch around Vladdy.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because I'd be interested to see what the stats would be when Vladdy comes to the plate with bases loaded, because I don't think I can think of a time where he's struck out or got out when the bases have been loaded. So that would be definitely an interesting stat to look at. He just, like, there's something, I watch him play and I'm like, what's this guy going to do next? I'm convinced he's going to be the first person to hit a 5-run home run. Like that's how good he is at the moment.
I bet I was muted there, Jay. Sorry about that. I was saying it, and also a notification popped up. Yeah, you're muted. I was saying you're almost surprised when he doesn't get on base. He comes to the plate, he sees a good at bat. It's like he got out. Like, oh, what's going on? Two times in a row he gets out. He starts 0 for 2, and you're like, what's wrong with Vladdy? Because he's at the level of excellence so ridiculously high that anytime he doesn't, like, a 1 for 3 game with a double and a walk is a great game for anyone. And for Vladdy, it's like, oh, well, he was all right. Nah, nothing too special.
Keeps him at around 340 average.
yeah. What's the big deal about that? Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. And this plate discipline, I think, is what has elevated him, because we saw early on in his career that he's always been a guy who's very good at putting bat to ball, not a whole lot of strikeouts. Even when his first couple underwhelming, quote unquote, underwhelming seasons, he's always been a guy who's able to put the ball in play, and it was just a matter of time before he finally started hitting them in the air a lot more, stopped chopping into the ground. And this year we've seen that. The plate discipline was always there. It was just the hard contact. And right now the hard contact is just through the roof, man.
I'm excited to see where he finishes up at the end of the season. Because if he's going to carry on like the tear he's doing at the moment, I think we're going to see something special this year. But I don't want to talk too much, because we could spend the whole night talking about Vladdy and how good he is. Want to move forward to the series coming up. Oh, look, he's back.
I'm back. Sorry, that was confusing.
There we go.
All good.
You haven't missed much. We've just still been talking about Vladdy, but we're gonna move on, because you're bound to say he's just amazing. We love him. We all want to marry him. Like that's how good he is.
Yeah.
Massive series coming up. Baltimore. We've talked about how bad they are. I actually don't think that they're as bad as their results probably say.
They're pretty bad, Jay.
We've seen worse teams, right? We have seen worse teams. We've possibly played against worse teams. Like, at least Baltimore, they've got a little bit of fight about them. Like, I think it doesn't win you games, but I don't think that they're the worst team we will see this year. I'll say that.
Like, there's a bad teams. Like, Miami's a bad team, but at least there's a form of I want to say competence about them. They pitch well, they field well. They're just not all that talented. That lineup is just not talented. It's Jazz Chisholm, who's a nice looking prospect, and then a bunch of 4A players. But Baltimore, it seems like you look at them. There's just nothing attractive about that team. Their pitching staff. They have Matt Harvey in 2021, depending on him to throw multiple innings out of the rotation. Like, we've gotten to this point. So
he was quite good, though. He was quite good in his start, though, for the first few innings.
He started good, and then once the fifth inning came around, his arm that's carried a lot of mileage over the years started to not have the bullets coming out necessarily as hot. But yeah, no, I think I haven't watched a whole lot of them obviously this season because the Jays haven't played them, and why would I watch an Orioles game? But I'm not sure there's really anything too appetizing about that team. I think Trey Mancini's all right. He's a great story. And obviously Cedric Mullins has he looks like the face of their franchise. But other than that, I'm not sure that there's a whole lot else there.
Do we think quickly, someone else can answer this other than Rob, because it's turning into Rob's talk with Rob. Just do we think that what happened in the last series with Alek Manoah and him intentionally not throwing at somebody, do we think that there's going to be a little bit of friction in this series? And do we think that could cause us a problem? Because I don't think anyone on the Jays team were very happy with what happened. And they're certainly not happy with the outcome, apart from Charlie, because he got a 1-game suspension, and then I'll take that. It's like, dude, like, really? But again, another story. So do we think there's going to be friction? And also, are we at a point now in the season where nothing but at least a 3, you talked about it on Blue Jay Center last night, nothing but a 3-1 win or a sweep is going to be good enough for this Jays team to continue the momentum going forward?
Yeah, I think it's always kind of random when you think about retaliation from Baltimore or the Blue Jays. So obviously, like, to me personally, it wasn't intentional, but to Michael Franco it was. So whatever the Orioles think and however they want to kind of progress with that situation, and it's kind of random in that sort of a sense. But
who are they throwing at?
Yeah.
If they throw at Vladdy, I hate to think what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, if they throw a Vladdy, all hell breaks loose. But and with the series, 2-2 would be a disappointment. So I think 3-1 or 4-0 is how you get on top, because 2-2 be 2 games over 500 again. 3-1. Realistically, 4-0 is hard. Baltimore, like Robbie mentioned, they're still a major league team. They have some hitters, I guess, and yeah, so 3-1. I think we can do that. Anthony Kay on the mound. He is what he is. But we have Ryu going, and then who else do we have in the series?
It's Manoa, isn't it? Supposedly.
Manoa and Stripling.
Yeah.
Manoa and Stripling. So yeah, that could be good. Stripling's been good, and Manoa's been all right. So hopefully, like 3 out of 4, I think is a realistic possibility, and I think that would be a good outcome.
Yeah, for sure. You cannot let this kind of series go away, and a split with the Baltimore Orioles right now will be a very bad result for the Jays. They got at least take 3 or 4, and hopefully they sweep this series, because that's what this team right now needs going into July for before the trade deadline and all that. So, and I think that always divisional games can sometimes be kind of risky for these kind of situations, and coming from this Manoa thing the last week, maybe it could be a risky point to consider. But right now, I think that Baltimore, it's just in another kind of season, and the Jays are just trying to recover all the ground they lost in the standings. So let's hope this can be a good play series. And I'll say, even though Baltimore it's been a bad team, I will say it has to be more with his pitching. I really don't see that too bad offense. I see like 4 or 5 guys in their lineup that for me are decent hitters. Cedric Mullins, Trey Mancini, even Freddie Galvis. It's a decent player. It's a guy who knows how to put the ball in play and get his hits. And they have all this guy Santander. I think it's a good hitter. Their catcher, even though he's not been good this season, Pedro Severino, it's another for me decent hitter. So I think the problem with Baltimore this season and the previous season also is that their pitching is so bad that it's tough for that team to stay in the games. But going into Buffalo and playing in a park where the ball can fly away anytime, and you gotta be careful with that, because sometimes the Baltimore, if your starting pitcher could not give you some innings to put the game into a good position, these kind of games can be in some ways can be complicated. So, but yeah, you gotta win the series, because now the Jays are waiting again for the shuttle to start playing against teams above them to show again that they can beat the good teams, because in the past 4 or 5 series against the teams above us, we all failed. We failed in all of that series. So we just need to beat the teams that are under us for sure, and hoping to get momentum to go against the good teams, and also show that the Jays can beat them.
I was doing some maths earlier today, not often, but I was going through and I was ignoring who we were playing, but I actually looked at it and thought, if we don't go 7-3 over the next 20 games, we're more or less going to be out of it. We have to start turning it around, because I don't think 4 or 5 games over 500 is going to be enough to get us in the wildcard spot. If we look at the other teams that are in there, I think that we're going to need to be. I think it's going to be between 8 and 10 over 500 for us to have the realistic chance of being in the playoffs. So I think we really have to take this Baltimore. So who do we play after Baltimore? It's
Seattle. Yeah.
In Seattle.
No, Buffalo.
Here. Okay. So
and Seattle just. I think Seattle just swept the race, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
those are series that you cannot be pretty sure that you're gonna sweep
Their
those games
record,
because
their record's
It's
pretty
the same
similar
with
to
us.
ours, right? Their record's pretty similar to ours. So I think that we have to really go out and sweep Baltimore and then hope we can take the Seattle series 2-1.
Yeah, no, I think to me, I sort of set the number arbitrarily. If you're within 4 games, 3 to 4 games of the second wild card at the trade deadline, you're in decent shape, especially if reinforcements are on the way. So I'm kind of looking at that as my target goal for this team, is that within 3 games of a second wild card at the trade deadline, I think they definitely have a shot, especially because I'm expecting to make some moves at the deadline. I really am. I don't think it's just going to be patching up the holes. I think they could go out and really help get some guys that can not only help them for the rest of this season, but for years to come as well. Like Barrios is my favorite name, but there's also plenty of other guys who can help as well.
Been saying that for 2 months.
Yeah, I've been saying it, man. I've been beating that drum. You watch the show. That's my guy, man. You not for it?
We won't get him. It will be some 40-year-old that hasn't played for like 5 years.
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally expecting the Van Eyck for Kyle Gibson deal to come, but I'm just saying we can always dream, right? We can always dream that they can land Jose Barrios. I told you, man. That's my target. That's my guy. They get Barrios, they got a shot.
I will prefer even Scherzer over Berrios, even Scherzer, because I know Scherzer is just for this season, because it will be tough to sign him maybe for the next season. But
yeah,
if you give me these two options between Scherzer and Berrios, I will take for this season. I will take Scherzer for sure. But yeah, I think I like Berrios also. I think that he's a very good pitcher, and considering that he will have, I believe, another year in his contract for the next season, maybe that will make him a little bit more not cheaper. How you say?
Expensive.
more expensive for the Jays. So let's see how things go on. And but I will say also that the only thing right now that I'm not too much worried about is our starting pitching. Really, I can say that. So I know that having another arm for that rotation will be great. That's for sure. But right now, at this moment, I will say that starting pitching for me, it's the least worry I have for this team.
But Luis, just to interject there, to me, my whole argument with the starting pitching is that I don't think it's necessarily all that feasible to expect Manoah to be a 100 inning guy right in his first year. Keep in mind, before he came into the season with the Jays, he had pitched 30 innings of professional baseball in his whole career. So that's a pretty big jump. I think, to me, if you're going in the pennant race, you're going to need a guy who's proven and has been dominant. To me, I see Manoah being the 2015 Aaron Sanchez, where you give him a shot as a starting pitcher, and then as you slowly move towards the end of the year, kind of helps you more in terms of a bullpen role just to preserve his arm.
But imagine if he isn't it with his arm that he's got, he'd actually be quite lethal in the bullpen, I'd think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to me, the potential's so high where he's a starter. You're expecting him to be a starter for years to come, but at least for this season, in terms of a sample, I think he could absolutely be a guy who could help them. And Sanchez ended up being the setup man for that team and pitched a lot of big innings for them. I don't think he gave up a run the entire postseason, if I'm not mistaken. So, I think that's kind of the framework of what I would hope he becomes this season for them.
David, if we're going for a pitcher, who's your call? Who would you like to see?
Well, Ruppy brought up Kyle Gibson as this kind of under the radar, not too big of a trade target. But I was looking at stats the other day, and he has a under 2.50 ERA. So I don't know. I think he would be good, but again, Barrios is good too. But what would be the price for him? He has another contract, so he has another year under his contract. So I think that it just really depends on what the Jays are willing to part with. And
to me, I think. Sorry, Dave. We finished. Go ahead, finish your.
No, yeah. No, I was just gonna say. I think, just like I said, this team really values their prospects, and just who they're willing to give up is kind of how I see them playing it out. But Mark Chappelle said, I believe he said on the Fan 590 this morning that they're going to add to this team in a considerable way. So hopefully
I saw that this morning. Or I saw it earlier today. What he said this morning. Are are you getting the feeling that he's probably going to get a starter, someone for the bullpen, and a third baseman? I kind of got the feeling by listening to what he said. And no, I'm not saying how I managed to listen to what he said because I get told off for like illegally streaming stuff. But hey, I'm in the UK. What do you want from me? But I get the feeling that, and we've talked about this before about the front office actually pulling the trigger when need be. I've got a feeling that they're going to go all out. I think that they realise that they're so close with this team. If they were to go and get a starter, Stripling moves to the pen, and then they get someone else to add to the bullpen as well, and they go for a third baseman, depending on who the third baseman is. But I've got a feeling that we could end up with 3 big names. That's my take. That's my take.
And also, too, you got to consider is that out of all the teams who have a loaded farm system, the Jays right now are kind of the only contender that's up there. So I think all these teams that are willing to sell off their assets at high value, they're really interested in what the Jays have to offer, because that's kind of the one team that is also contending right now and also has a hell of a farm system. So, you know, if the Yankees call up Minnesota and say, we want Barrios, Minnesota's going to say, okay, we'll put you on hold. We'll see what Shapiro has to offer. I think they control the market. I really do. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they take that to their advantage and go out and make some moves. Now, I'm not saying, you know, completely empty the cupboard like we saw in 2015, but I think absolutely this team, I'll just say I'll be disappointed if they don't make some significant adds at the deadline.
I agree. I think I don't know how much Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins really believe how much this team can really contend. Because when you look at the teams in the wild card, you got like Houston, Boston, Tampa Bay. Do they really believe that this team can really compete with those teams in a wild card game? I guess it's just one game, but you know, throughout the whole summer and through October. So I'm under the impression that I don't know if they're gonna totally empty the farm system for these guys. Like Rob said, not totally empty the farm system, but I do believe they'll add a few pieces. But I just want to like hold people off thinking that they're just gonna like clear the system for a season that they're not ready, completely 100% ready to contend yet. That's what I think.
This is why I'm so into the Barrios thing, because he can, not only is he going to help you this year, but he's going to be there next year too. He's going to be your number 2 starter next year, because as I said yesterday on the post game, Robbie Ray's going to get paid this offseason, guys. I don't think Jays fans are ready for the kind of contract he's going to get. I think it's going to be a lot fatter than we all maybe hope for. So you're going to need a frontline starter for sure, whether it's right now or in the offseason. And why not right now?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I don't see the Jays clearing their farm system right now. They will give 2 or 3 of good prospects, but they have a lot of options down there, and I think that they will be just as aggressive as the team gets into the July post trade deadline, and I think that will say how aggressive they can be, because when I think at the American League right now, even the top 3 teams in the American League, if you want to put the Rays there, the Chicago White Sox, the Astros, and maybe the A's, with any of these 3 or 4 teams, when we play them, I just had this feeling that the Jays were on their level or even better than them, but there were different things at the end that just didn't let the Jays take those series in their favor.
Houston was the one that stood out the most, because I just don't know how we didn't win that series.
No, I think Houston's the second best team in the AL. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but what he's saying is that we could well have won that series.
Yeah, but they were better though. Their starting pitching they're young and they're controllable, and that offense can really match. I don't necessarily agree. I think Houston's a bit of a tier above us.
Yeah. They are right now, but everything can happen. We have 4 months left, and we are not that far away from them. Yeah, I agree that they are better than the Jays right now. That's totally true. But we are not that far away from them, and in a season where you have 3.5 months left and too much things to happen. And if you can add these 1 or 2 players to make your team better, you can turn things around. So that's why I think that the Jays, they are not necessarily in a hurry mode to be that aggressive. They as because that's also not in the Ross Atkins and Mark Chaparro style. I think that they are more like a kind of a calm front office, but they are very clear with what they want, and they will find a way to add maybe a big splash name, let's say Max Scherzer, and maybe 2 or 3 more average players, but those kind of players that can maybe have a key role for the last part of the season. So I think that all will depend on how the Jays handle the next month between today and the next 30 days to see how they go on to the last part of July.
Look what they did last year, though, with the players that they brought in. Bearing in mind it was a short season, they were relatively big moves.
Stripling, Villar, and who else they get?
Tyrone Walker.
Walker, right? Yeah.
So I
think it's going to be more than that this year.
Yeah, no, and that's my point. In a season that was a short season, you were only getting them for a month, 2 months, whatever it was. They had no problem doing it. They had no problem making the call, and that's why I'm more leaning to that they will. If we had lost the previous 2 series, and we were well below 500, our conversation today would be much different. But like we started off the conversation today, they're on a 4-game stretch. It's I like the way we've won as well. That's been the best thing about it. I like the way we've won them games, and they're all for different reasons. Like I say, going into this series, and then Seattle afterwards. I think it's big. I think it will. I'm not saying that we will win the next 7 games, but if we did win the next 7 games, look, it's not unheard of that you can go on an 11-game winning run. So they win them games, pushes us up there, makes us a better, a more attractive outfit, doesn't it? And I just think that we're close, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I guess we'll find out soon, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you have MVP Vladdy, when you have, who knows if Marcus Simeon's going to be back next year? Who knows if Robbie Ray's going to be back this year? Who knows how many more prime years Hyunjin Ryu has? It looks like the core of this team. Yeah, this team's going to be good for a long time, but you have a chance to make some noise this season right now. And if you're, 5, 6, 7 games over 500 at the deadline and a chance to make the playoffs, absolutely. I think they should absolutely do what it takes to make a team that can win right now. No doubt about it. I'm not holding back.
Right. I'm going to start trying to wrap this up because the game starts in about an hour and I have stuff to do. So quick predictions. Both series. We'll do Baltimore first. I think we're all agreed that we'll take the Baltimore series. So the question is what do you think? I'm going to go sweep. I'm going to lay it all out there. Sweep. We'll start with Rob. Rob, what are you thinking? Keep it short.
5-2. 5-2.
Okay.
That's my take also. 5-2. 3 against Baltimore and 2 against the Mariners.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say just to one up them. I'll say 6-1.
So who we sweeping there, Dave? Who we sweeping?
6-1.
For the 6-1, you gotta take 3 of Baltimore and sweep the Mariners.
Be with Baltimore and then sweep Seattle.
Sweep Seattle. Yeah.
I'm going on a limb, but
David, I like your style. You can come back again, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think so. I think it's going to be there. It's. I want to say it's unlikely we'll win all 7. But let's hope we do, huh?
Of course.
Let's hope we do. I think that like Springer's back in the lineup. We have 3 bullpen pitchers that are going to have to pitch every single day now. And the starters are doing their thing. I'll be interested to see how Anthony Kay does tonight. And if let's say he does go 5 innings, great. But if he can't go more than 3 innings, I'll be interested to see how Charlie manages the bullpen, because he's technically only got half a bullpen, right?
No, I'm very interested. I'm very interested to see.
That's going to be the key for what happens tonight. I think the rest of the series will take care of itself. And let's see if the bats can light up a few, because they've been a little bit quiet. I don't think it's anything to worry about, but it'll be nice to see some runs and give Kay. Look, if we can score 5, 6, 7 runs in the first 4 innings, then Kay can go. If he gives up 3 or 4 runs, who cares, as long as we're leading, right? That's it, guys. Massive pleasure for everyone that's come on today. Rob, Luis, I no doubt will hear and see you on Blue Jay Center at some point. David, many thanks for coming on today. I know it was very short. No, it was very short notice, but whenever you want to come back on, you are more than welcome to. We'll get all the details over to you and stuff for where you can find it. Guys, don't forget, as well as always, hit us up on YouTube, like, subscribe. Hit the guys up over on Blue Jay Center as well. Make sure you follow their content. What day is it? Tomorrow, Fan Take Friday tomorrow. Make sure you get involved in that, as always. Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere else you can see your podcast. And I'll catch you again soon for another edition of Jay's Talk with Jay. Boom. We're done.